Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's review of Venom. It is a brand new film, just came out. I believe it was on the 5th of October, and it stars Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock slash Venom, Michelle Williams as Anne, I believe her last name is Wenning, um, Riz Ahmed as Carlton Drake, and I wouldn't say she stars, but she's the only other face and actor that I knew, and that was Jenny Slate as Dr. Dora Skirth. And the only reason why I mention Jenny here is because she puts in a performance I didn't expect from her. Her most notable performance that I have seen is of Mona Lisa on Parks and Rec. Money, please. Total annoyance, and she couldn't be any different than in this one. And it actually made me believe she could be a well doctor, but she's more of a scientist here. Funny note, she is the one in, I believe it's the first trailer, that says we call them symbiotes, and is the one that says it really awkwardly. But throughout this whole film, they say it as symbiote. I hear symbiote in the film when in the first trailer they said symbiote, and it was just really weird. But with that said, I'm going to get into a non-spoiler review. So I'm not going to go through a lot of the plot points, just kind of stick more to the technical areas that I saw. Um, and when we speak of the technical areas, you have to think about Venom being purely CGI. And he moved strangely. So the CGI just didn't always work. And I understand that CGI is hard to do liquid movement. But the movement of the Venom symbiote, not just outwardly, but most notably, the weirdest spot is when he is getting hit with sound and he's like phasing in and out. It's just really weird effect that I was not a fan of. But the symbiotes weren't the only problem with the CGI. There was a drone scene that you could clearly go, that's CGI. And it just pulled me out of the film a little bit. There are some highlights, though. Most notably is the interactions between Eddie, a human. We're gonna stick with humans here. Is between Eddie and Anne, and Anne and Eddie. They start the film as I'll give you a little spoiler here. As fiancés, they're getting ready to get married, and some things happen, and that changes. But with that said, um, well, that happens. They take 45 minutes to give you Eddie's backstory, and that feels completely drawn out. And I found myself looking at my watch two or three times, going, "When's something going to happen?" It's a 112-minute movie, so almost 2 hours, and that includes the standard, well, standard 10-minute credit scene because of all the CGI that needed to be done. But those two characters, their interaction, they did well, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the screen time together. But the most notable interaction is between Eddie and the Venom symbiote itself. They have this duality that I wouldn't say is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but is a very uh, give and take kind of relationship that is starts to drive Eddie a little mad, and it's the highlight of the film. We see specifically through their Eddie going basically his descent into madness. And when you look at Venom, it's a film about a character who is closely tied to Spider-Man, like extremely close. Venom hates Spider-Man, and Eddie hates Peter. So it's one of those things that how do you do this arc this movie without Spider-Man. And what they did was they based it off the Lethal Protector comic art. Arc, not art. I think it's based. It's from like '94. But and then they gave the origin story from the Ultimate Venom, and I thought it worked okay. It just they needed so much time to set up Eddie because we didn't have Spider-Man. So that kind of made the film drag on a bit. Um, they did some things I didn't expect, and I'm not going to tell you what they are. And as soon as you see them, you're going to go, "Whoa!" Especially if you're a Venom fan. When you like a character so much as this, as so many people do, you're either going to love it or you're absolutely going to hate it. And I thought it was all right. I mean, I've seen worse movies. I've seen worse movies from Sony. I've seen worse Spider. Believe it or not, I've seen worse Spider-Man films, and I've seen worse films about Venom. If that tells you where I rank this version to previous versions that we've had before. The most notable, there is a mid-credit scene that I'm not going to tell you what it means. If you are curious, leave a comment below and I will try to reach out to you without using the comments, because I'm going to lay off spoilers for at least another week, considering most people lay they either go the first week or the second week if they're going to see this movie at all. With that being said, I think this movie was better than I had anticipated. I had a very low ceiling for it. I expected this to be a major bomb, but I think it's going to do well this weekend, or this last weekend. And I think it might turn into something and it might not. It's definitely not the film that's going to make you go, "Oh, they need to sell this, all of it, to Disney so Marvel Studios can have all of Spider-Man's toys back." I don't think we're going to get that Flash Thompson Agent Venom anytime in the near future. Though think about that kid from Spider-Man Homecoming whose name I'm blanking on, the actor who kept calling Peter names at the house party. Imagine him as a Venom for a minute. And speaking of Venom, there's one thing I have to mention, because you see it in the... There's two things, actually, that I have to talk about because they are so ingrained with what we've seen in the marketing. And that is, one, we've seen memes on it all over the place. It's the line that goes over, "You'll be like a turd in the wind." Like, I understand that Venom eats body parts to survive, and that line about eating a pancreas and a brain, and that is lifted straight out of one of the Amazing Spider-Man issues. I want to say it's like 287, but I'm not 100% on that. But that whole turd in the wind kind of thing is kind of weird. But it does lay into Venom's personality more than Eddie's, and I enjoy the way Venom is as a character, as his own character, not just as Eddie's shield. The other thing I want to mention is there is no white spider on Venom. And there's a spot in this film that would have been perfect to do it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but when you see this film, you will know that would have been the perfect spot to do it. They don't do it, and really that's okay, because this Venom does not need to be tied into Spider-Man. Believe it or not, we can do Venom without Spider-Man. They just need to get through what is essentially his origin and move on to building him as his own character. Would I go and see this film in the theaters again? No, I have no intention of doing that. Would I recommend the younger kids? No, there is a little bit too much violence, a couple curse words, but nothing too horribly bad. It is rated PG-13, not the R-rated that we thought we were going to get months ago. And I think what I'm going to do, because I will see this movie again, and this is how I recommend um, this movie in particular, is wait for it on Netflix, wait for it on whatever streaming service you prefer. This movie is a rental for me. So, with that said, and with the idea on how to look at children, there's one more thing I need to talk about, one more thing that I need to mention that just irked me really badly at my screening. And that was, and this is going to be directed to you teenagers. Put your phone down. It isn't text time with your friends. If you're at a theater, don't be taking a picture of the title screen. If you see this, you know who you are. And put your phone down before the movie starts, not 10 minutes after it starts. It's distracting. Be respectful to everybody else in the theater. All right? With that said, I'll see you next time at our next review. I'm not sure what that is right now, but until then, have a great night. I did finger guns. Oh my goodness.